Hi, thanks for purchasing the Photo Alphabet After Effects template. In this tutorial, I'm going to just give you a quick overview of the project setup and show you how to replace your photos, replace the words in the word scenes, and how to replace the text in the closing scene. So let's start with the overview of our project setup. In our Photo Alphabet Render Comp timeline, we have all of these layers, which are different scenes. And as you recall from the project description, we have 15 word scenes where we showcase a word. We also have 6 different photo montage scenes that you can rearrange or re-edit if you want. And we also have 3 video scenes, and you can use those or you can delete them from the timeline. And you can also, select these layers. You can move them, rearrange them, however you see fit, and you can also lengthen the layers. So if you wanted to make a scene a little bit longer, you can do that. So you can edit to your music or to your voiceover. So let's take a look in our project panel really quick, and you can see our first folder is our alphabet. This contains all of the pre-comps for all of our letters. We also have our photos, which are creating the shapes of the letters. Those are also shown in the montage scenes. So in order to make these look a little bit more visually interesting, they are sort of randomly put in here. So you can see there's no numerical order or anything to these. We just wanted to mix them up a little bit, so when you did see a word, you saw a variety of photos instead of the same ones over and over again. If we go back to our Photo Alphabet Render Comp, you'll see some controls for the first 2 layers. Our first layer is Control Photo Shadows here, and on this null layer we have the drop shadow effect applied. If you double click that, it opens in the Effects Controls panel. So if you wanted to make those shadows a little bit darker, you could do that. Increase the distance. And as you can see, it's affecting the drop shadow effect on all of the letters. So let's take a look at our next control layer, and it's called Turn On Photo Numbers here. And if you double click on this effect, it says Turn On Photo Numbers. Double click on that, go to your Effects Controls panel. So this checkbox controls the opacity for the numbers that are on our placeholder photos. So for example, if you were going to your montage scene and there was one particular photo you didn't like or you wanted to replace, you can scrub through the timeline and you can find out exactly which one it is. When you render, you probably don't want to see those numbers, or maybe you do. You can turn that off by just clicking that checkbox and then turn them back on. So let me go ahead and show you how to replace your photo for one of these placeholders, and it's basically the same process for all of our placeholders. So if you go to Replace Photos Here folder in your project panel, and then go to the other subfolder called Replace Photos Here, open that up, and we're going to start with Replace Photo 01. So you can double click to open that up. So to import our photo, we'll go to File, Import, and select File, and then navigate to your folder that has your placeholder. We'll import our photo. And then what we can do is just select our image from our project panel and then drag it into our timeline. You'll see that we have just a generic placeholder. You can turn that off in the timeline or you can delete it. And now we can see our photo. You can see it's way too big. So if you want to twirl down to our scale parameter, and you can drag that to the left and make that smaller or whatever size you like. That looks pretty good. And that's pretty much it. You don't have to turn off this number layer. Remember that you can do that in the render comp with our little checkbox. And also, if you wanted to write some text there instead of having a number, you can also do that. Double click this text layer to make it editable, then you can type your text. But remember that its opacity is controlled by our checkbox. So you'll also see we have this white frame, and this frame is the same one on all of the photos. If you double click, you can open that pre-comp and you'll see how it's made. This is a shape layer that's creating the frame. If you wanted to mess with those parameters too, if you're familiar with shape layers, you can do that. So you would repeat that process for each placeholder, and remember there are 50 of them. You do need to put a photo in all of them in order to fill up all the placeholders in our letters. So let's go back to our render comp timeline and let's replace the letters in this first scene. We go back to our project panel, go to a folder called scenes, and as you can see we have subfolders for each scene. So we have our closing scene, our opening scene, where we have our logo, and I'll show you how to replace that too. We have our photo montage scenes. They're also labeled with which photos they are showing in that particular animation. Then we have our project spec scene, and that's the scene at the very end of the preview that you saw. You can utilize this or not. You can delete it. You can remove it from the timeline. Single letter scenes. So if you twirl that down, open up the A. If you just wanted to showcase just a single letter in a scene, and all you would do is just drag them into your render comp. So you want to drag it in there, and then, you know, edit it, move it around wherever you like. And then we have our video scenes, and they're just placeholders. Well, actually, they're scenes for your videos. You don't have to use video if you don't want to. Lastly, we have our word scenes. Let's double click to open this composition labeled Intro Word Scene 01. If we open that up, we can see our animation setup. And to change out this word, it is pre-comped. So you'll want to go back to your project panel, go to replace text here, and then open up the Intro Word 01 composition. To replace these letters, you can go up to our alphabet folder in the project panel, and you can either just drag these into the timeline, or you can replace the existing letters that are already there, and I'll show you how to do that. You want to select the layer you want to replace. So in this case, it'll be the P. And we want to replace it with an R. So we'll select the R composition in our project panel, and you're going to hold down the Alt key on a PC or Option on a Mac. Hold down that key while you drag that comp into the timeline, and it will replace whatever layer is selected in your timeline. So we'll do this for this scene. And if you want to select all of your letters, hold down Shift and select their top layer and your bottom layer, and now they'll all be selected, and then you can sort of center that. And you can hit S on your keyboard and scale them up if you like, or make them smaller, whatever you want to do. And if we go back to our intro word scene, you'll see that our word has been replaced. So if you go back to our Replace Text Here folder, you'll see this composition called Replace Closing Text Here. If you double click that, these are just regular text layers. If you double click on them, you see this pink highlight. That means that your text is editable. There we go. And that is for the closing scene at the very, very end, at the close. There we go. And to change the font or the colors, you can go to your character panel and change any of the text parameters in there. And really quickly, I will show you how to replace the logo. It's pretty simple. It's basically the same process as replacing an image. If you go to your project panel, go to Replace Photos here, Replace Logo here folder, double click to open the Replace Logo here composition. And we have just a text layer as a placeholder. You can turn that off or delete it. Then you want to import your logo. Click Open, and then just drag it into the composition timeline. And of course you can, scale that down or scale it up, rotate, whatever you like. And if we go back to our render comp, you'll see that our logo has been replaced. So thank you for watching. And if you have any questions about the template or need any more help, you can always email me, marissa@fluxvfx.com, or you can contact me on our Facebook page, Flux VFX After Effects Templates, and I'll be more than happy to help you with any issues that might come up. So thanks again for watching.